It was a cold Tuesday evening when Daniel noticed her again, the frail woman in the worn-out wheelchair, waiting silently outside his small family diner. The wind carried the scent of rain, and the sky hung low, heavy with gray clouds. But there she was, as always, her hands trembling slightly, her eyes kind yet weary. Every Tuesday for the past 2 months, she had rolled up to the back of the diner, never begging, never demanding, only whispering one quiet question to whoever passed by. "Do you have any leftovers, please?" Daniel had seen her many times, but never really looked at her, until that night. Something about her expression, the way she smiled gratefully even at rejection, made his heart ache. He had been through pain himself. Raising a little girl alone after his wife passed away during childbirth had left him hollow, exhausted, and distrustful of the world. But tonight, for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't turn away from the woman outside his diner's trash bins. That if you believe that kindness can still change lives, that every soul deserves a second chance, and that love can bloom even in broken hearts, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world what it means to feel that. As the rain began to fall, Daniel stepped outside with a brown paper bag of leftover soup and bread. The woman's face lit up with a soft gratitude that pierced him deeper than words. She thanked him quietly and started to leave, but Daniel couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to her story, something hidden behind those tired eyes. Over the next few weeks, he began watching her from a distance. She always came on Tuesdays, never asked for money, never complained. She simply took what was offered, whispered her thanks, and disappeared down the same dark street every single time. One night, curiosity got the better of him. After closing the diner, Daniel decided to follow her. His heart raced as he drove slowly behind her wheelchair, keeping his headlights dim so as not to frighten her. She turned into a narrow alley near the edge of town, a place he'd always avoided. The sound of the rain against his windshield made the world feel distant, muffled, as he watched her stop in front of an old abandoned building. Then, something unexpected happened. She began to hum softly. The tune was broken but hauntingly familiar, a lullaby he used to sing to his daughter, Emma, when she couldn't sleep. Daniel parked his car quietly and watched as the woman struggled to unlock the rusty door and push herself inside. He hesitated but followed her in, flashlight trembling in his hand. What he saw made his knees weak. Inside the dim, crumbling room were 4 little children, barefoot, shivering, and huddled together around a small candle. The woman smiled as she handed them the food, her frail hands shaking. The children looked up at her as though she were their entire world. Tears stung Daniel's eyes. She wasn't asking for leftovers for herself. She was feeding these children. They weren't her kids. They couldn't be. 2 of them were dark-skinned. One looked barely 3 years old, and another had a face covered in freckles. They all clung to her, calling her Mama Grace. That name hit him like a whisper from heaven. Daniel stepped forward quietly, his voice breaking as he asked, "Who are they?" The woman froze, startled, but her eyes softened when she saw it was him, the man from the diner. She explained, in a trembling voice, that she was once a schoolteacher. A car accident had left her paralyzed 3 years ago, and she had lost everything: her home, her savings, her job. She survived on scraps, sleeping in the abandoned building, until one day she found these children left behind by life. A baby in a cardboard box near a dumpster, 2 siblings whose parents overdosed, and another who had been running from an abusive home. "I couldn't walk away," she said softly. "They reminded me of my students, of innocence that deserves a chance. I may not have legs that work, but I have hands that can still hold and a heart that refuses to stop loving." Daniel couldn't speak. He knelt down beside the children, who looked up at him with shy smiles. One of them offered him half of a piece of bread, as if to share their treasure. Something inside him broke open that night. A dam he didn't even know he'd built around his heart after losing his wife. He started visiting them every week. Quietly at first, bringing food and clothes. He never told anyone about them. The world was too quick to judge, and he didn't want pity to taint what was pure. Slowly, the children began to trust him. They called him Uncle Dan. Little Emma, his own daughter, soon began to join him, carrying tiny bags of fruit and giggling as she helped feed her new friends. Watching his little girl laugh with those children filled his soul in a way he hadn't felt in years. Grace always sat quietly, watching them with eyes full of peace and pain. Daniel noticed how she used to hide her legs under a blanket, ashamed of her wheelchair. But Emma, in her innocent way, once walked up and placed a flower crown on Grace's head and said, "You're my angel." Grace cried for the first time that Daniel had ever seen. As weeks turned into months, Daniel's diner began doing better. He didn't know if it was karma, luck, or just the warmth returning to his life. But one evening, when he saw Grace coughing badly, he realized she needed help beyond food. He convinced her to let him take her to a hospital. The doctors said she had pneumonia, worsened by years of living in the cold. She would need long-term care, maybe surgery. Daniel stayed by her side every day. He saw the fire in her eyes, the kind that refuses to die even when the body breaks. "You've done more good in your pain than most people do in comfort," he told her one night, holding her hand as she slept. And that night, something inside him changed. He realized he wasn't just helping Grace anymore. He was healing with her. When she recovered, Daniel surprised her with something she never expected. He had renovated one of the diner's old storage rooms and turned it into a small living space. Warm, clean, and safe. "You and the kids deserve this," he said simply. Grace cried uncontrollably, covering her face. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Because you reminded me what love looks like when it's real. It's not perfect or easy. It's just giving without keeping count." Word spread around the town. People began donating food, clothes, even toys for the children. What started as a single act of kindness turned into a movement, a quiet ripple that reached hearts Daniel never thought it would. Grace began teaching again, tutoring children at the diner in the evenings, while Daniel and Emma served meals. The place became more than a diner. It became a family's heartbeat. Then, one night, as Daniel was closing up, Grace rolled over to him, her eyes shining. "You saved me," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, Grace. You saved me. You showed me how to live again." There, under the soft glow of the diner's neon lights, two broken souls finally found a home in each other, not out of pity, but out of shared strength, quiet hope, and the kind of love that grows from compassion. As the sun rose the next morning, Daniel watched Grace helping Emma serve breakfast to a few customers. The children she once rescued were now laughing, chasing each other in the yard behind the diner. For the first time in years, the smell of coffee and pancakes carried not just warmth, but healing. And as Grace looked up, smiling at Daniel through the morning light, he realized something profound. Sometimes, the people who seem the most broken are the ones who carry the light strong enough to heal everyone around them. And maybe, just maybe, that's what love truly is. Two scarred souls finding home in the heart of hope.